And welcome back for episode 3 of Rookie and the Closer, where I am the rookie and my co host Maddie is the closer. And you have tuned into a very special episode. It's kind of a little get to know us series, mini series, if you want to call it that, where I'm going to kind of interview Maddie today because she's had a very long career in sales and she's done everything from one call close, like full cycle sales, to customer success manager, to sales leadership, to massive enterprise sales. So I think it'll be a very good conversation. What do you think, Maddie?
I mean, I love talking about myself, so I'm all for it. I love to make the joke on calls that I might not look as old as I do, but I'm almost 40 years old. I have been selling for a while. And we'll get into it, but I think that a lot of different things are sales. The sales helps in every aspect of every job. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about my history and my background, and then I'm going to work really hard to make it helpful and actionable and insightful for all of you beautiful people out there.
If you weren't thinking about getting into sales, she might have just closed you on it.
It's a good one. I have told you this before, but I'm famous for handing out business cards just with my personal cell phone. If you sound good on the phone at European Wax Center, if you close me, the car wash guy, David and I are
We
in
gotta get
touch with
him
the
on
guy
here,
that
honestly.
he sold me
Honestly.
a freaking $500 car wash and package for the oil changes and all the things. And it's some people don't like being sold all the time, but people really like buying. So I feel like that's the
Oh,
like
yeah.
he did me a favor. Like he didn't close me or sell me or force me. He gave me an opportunity to buy something that was really valuable, and it was like a really fun exchange. So yeah, you can sell no matter what you're doing.
Let's go. We love it here.
Yeah.
So, Maddie,
Well, I'm
why don't
old.
you? No, you're not. No, you're not.
I
You're just getting started. I think you're
Yeah.
actually the rookie.
Yeah, it's good to feel that way. It's good to always feel like you're learning, have that growth mindset.
But why don't we get started? Why don't we jump right in? Because audiences love when you get right into the topic. Um,
Hmm.
so why don't you? And I remember on episode 1, if you haven't seen it yet, you can tune into that. It's on our YouTube channel. Um, but why don't you take us to the beginning? I think you said you were a waitress and maybe someone you played beer pong with got you into
Good,
sales.
good memory.
Why don't we
Yep.
start from there?
Yeah, yeah. So I was a waitress. That was one of my first jobs that I ever had. Loved it. I'm from New Jersey, so I was very much like the diner waitress that you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And I waited tables all through college, bartended. Even after college, I didn't know what I wanted to do for work, so I just found another restaurant job. I left Vermont, where I was going to school, waiting tables there. I had the momentary thought of, do I just stay in Vermont forever and like manage this restaurant? But being from New Jersey, you know how it is. It's like you gotta work in the city,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, oh, it's like just do it unless you can't do it. So yeah, I was home, and actually this how I got into sales, I think, is a little bit of like a God thing. But there was this cook at the restaurant I worked at, and we were just kind of shooting the shit. And he's like, "Oh, you have a college degree?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he looked at me, and I will never forget the look in his eyes. He said, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, "Shit, man! Like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up." You know what I mean? But it just lit this fire in me where it was like, I just gotta start. I just gotta find a job. So I think first, lesson of the day, without having even started my sales career yet, is like, just say yes to that first opportunity.
Of course.
Don't overthink it. Just start. Just start. Say yes to things. Make yourself available. So I decided in that moment, like, I got to get a big girl job. I got to get a real job. And because the universe is amazing and I was ready to listen to opportunities, my buddy, hi Matt, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I know about this company. They need people to cold call restaurant owners." So this is like another beautiful kismet thing, right? Where it was like, what do you do all day, every day? Sell that. So it's like, we need you to cold call people, and we need to, again, I'm old. We need you to get them to fax their menu to us
Facts.
so that we can put it on the internet. So when I first started selling, restaurants didn't have websites. There was no menus on Google. People were on Foursquare and Urban Spoon. Are you too young? Do you even know what Urban Spoon is? And like,
I don't think I know
remember
what Urban
Foursquare?
Spoon is. Yeah.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. Well, we were the menu publisher, and yeah, I mean, I got the interview, and it's like strike while the iron is hot vibes for sure. So it was like, got on the call with the recruiter, this girl Corey. She was awesome. She asked me very cool interview questions, like you know, the whole superpower stuff, like what's the coolest thing you've seen lately, and like a lot of personality questions, which were cool. And then she's like, all right, great, and we want to move you forward to the next round. Can you be in the city this afternoon? So
Wow.
I'm sitting in my high school bedroom at home between shifts. Had the day off from the restaurant, and I was like, yeah, I'll get in the car right now.
Do it.
So got in the car, drove into the city. I
Oh,
used to
you
smoke
drove.
cigarettes. I drove. I drove myself because I was like, I'm gonna be chain smoking this entire time. So I got in the car. I have a vivid memory of like the hot air coming in through the window as I was going over the George Washington Bridge, and I'm just like ripping butts. And I was like, I had this moment where I was like, this could be the beginning of my real life. You know, like I'd graduated college maybe 6 months prior. This was my first job interview. I didn't know anything about anything. It was nuts. And so yeah, got in the city. I met the guy, Adam, one of the best sales leaders I have ever worked for. Taught me so much. Would love to have him on maybe in the future. Leave him in You're the Man. Yeah, I sat down with him, and I don't even remember the interview. I don't remember what we talked about. I don't remember what questions he asked me. I just remember feeling really good, like in my body. Like it just felt like a good normal conversation. I didn't feel like I was on my heels. I didn't feel like I was being interrogated. Like we just had a great conversation. And I didn't know what sales was. And I remember him telling me after the interview was over, I just felt like I would buy whatever you were selling. Right? So it's kind of like what you and I were talking about with Brandon on the last episode, where it's like what you're selling doesn't matter as much as the relationship you're building with people. And I think that's why I feel so lucky that I got that job, you know, and like I'll tell you about how hard the job was in a minute, but I think just understanding like the what you're selling matters so much less than like, do you work for someone you feel like you respect, that you can learn from, that you have fun with, that feels good to be around? Because if you feel good while you're selling, you're going to have a good day. Like you probably were high on life after that first booking today, and then you got the second one. And like, there's no way you weren't going to get the third one because you were just feeling so good.
Yeah. So I do want to ask, so you went to college. Had you ever thought about sales, and what did you study in college? Like, were you trying to get a job in your major, or what was kind of going on, like to rewind a little bit?
Yeah, I wanted to be a therapist, which I
Okay.
kind of am,
Yeah, basically. Yeah. You
basically in
solve
sales.
problems.
So you solve problems, you listen to people, you read
Yeah.
between the lines, you help them come to the conclusion that but no, I was a psych major. I was a women's and gender studies major. So yeah, double majored at UVM and University of Vermont in Burlington. And yeah, I wanted to be a therapist. And then when I graduated, I was like, I am so fucking broke that there is no world that I'm going to go back to school and spend more
Because
money.
you
Like
needed
it's
the
just,
advanced degree to do the therapy. Okay.
yep, at least your master's, if not more. And it was just not an option.
Feasible. Okay.
Um, but I didn't know that sales was a career at
Yeah.
all, like at all. And it seems so dumb now, where it's like we've all had people knock on our doors and try to sell us stuff. We've all had people call us, and like again, I'm older, so it's like the advent of freaking caller ID was like the best thing that ever happened to my parents because they could see that it was someone calling trying to sell them a new cable package during dinner. um, and like Wall Street guys calling you and like all those movies and stuff. But no, it never was presented to me as an option. I feel like when you're in school and you're thinking of like, what industry do I want to work in? Like, am I going to be a healthcare person? You can be a medical sales rep. if you are into
Yeah.
healthcare and making people healthy. You can sell being a personal trainer, you can sell yourself. You know, you can sell cars if you love cars. You can sell freaking cars.
Yeah.
But no, it was never, ever, ever an option. And the craziest part too, that I never made the connection on really, is that my grandfather was a salesperson. He sold
Really?
advertising.
Advertising. Okay, that was probably huge back then.
He's like one of the actual madmen. Like worked in
Wow.
Manhattan, full would cold call from the kitchen in a full suit and tie.
Let's go. He's a
Um,
gangster.
He's total gangster. And like my uncle is does insurance. He's a lawyer, and like he sells himself all the time too, and like gets these big clients and stuff, because he's selling. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I was gonna be a therapist, liberal arts, hippy dippy, college education for sure. Like no sniff of killer whatsoever. But I do feel like waitressing and bartending was like my first sales job.
Hmm.
So like I wish I had had someone come in and be like, you have the highest tip average and the highest check average of everyone
Your
here.
stats,
Like,
your dashboard.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, and like, just give me, like, once someone told me that you could track tip average, that's all I cared about. Like being number one, and like, I'm not a sports person either. So yeah, I always say sales was like my first sports team too, my first team I was on.
I love
Um,
it.
but
So,
yeah.
so what do you when you were a waitress, what do you think you did differently to get the highest tip average?
So this is like this could be like a deep psychological conversation potentially, because I've
We're here
actually
for
talked
it.
a lot in therapy about like my own identity crisis and feeling like I'm so much of a chameleon, which is great. But like I would say, if I had a six tables in my section, one is like a bunch of older women out for, a night before they go see a movie. Then you have like the rugby frat boys or whatever at this other table. And then you have a couple on a first date. And it's like, you're basically like playing a different part for all of those
Yeah.
to give them the experience that they want. Like I love serving people. Like I love hosting, I love gift giving, I love making things feel personalized. So I think that is like a blessing and a curse. It can be hard for me as just like a normal human because I lose myself a lot
Yeah.
in relationships. And I like to cater to people, and I don't often put my needs first, and then I fucking snap. You know
Yeah.
how we do. But no, I think that it really helped me to just give everybody like that very personal experience, and it's not just about like catering to their personality. I think going back to like people like to buy, I wanted to give them the experience that they wanted, and I found that I needed to ask a couple of very important like discovery questions at the beginning where it's like, hey, do we have anywhere to be? Or are we here to just like, have a lazy time? Like, I want to know, like, what's like the urgency? Is this like
Yeah.
a funded project that we're like, we have an RFP and we're like going to get the deal done? Or are you in like discovery mode? So like that. And then, are you going to want to have another drink? So like always just like thinking about what's the next step, because then the hack would be I could be across the restaurant and see that they were down to the bottom of their beer and order it and just show up, surprise and delight, because I
That's a
knew they
big
were going
tip
to
right
want to have
there.
another one. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
didn't have to go back. And so I think a lot of it too is like you're taking so many tables, and it's like how it is in sales. You're taking so many phone calls and you're doing so many demos and you're going through so many negotiations that like you have to get incrementally better every time and like turn it into a system and a playbook. So I think I had my playbook. Like I knew how this was going to go. But then that gives you the flexibility to like be more personalized in between, because it doesn't feel like you're brand new. Kind of like what we talked about originally with like, the chords, you can now jam.
Yeah.
You kind of got to like get your framework down, and then you get to have a little bit more fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. So yeah, so I guess really waitressing was the start of your sales career. Um, so why don't you was that interview with the guy, was that your last interview before you started the job, or
Yeah, he offered me the job on the spot.
so then when did you how many days after that did you start?
It probably was the following Monday.
And what was the training like? Was it like a sink or swim? Like what kind of, walk me through your first couple weeks or couple days.
So I think there's a different type, like when you're getting into sales, don't feel bad that you're new. You know what I mean? It's like you got to come in on the ground floor. So it's like you don't know anything, and you can have natural talent, but a lot of sales is just being brave and just taking it on the fucking chin. You know what I mean? Like you're just gonna, if as long as I told myself, just don't quit. No matter what happens, just don't quit. Like that was like my only thing was like they can fire me if I don't meet standards. I am not quitting because a lot of people quit. They just couldn't handle it. But it was like very much a beginner sales boot camp, like for anyone who's seen Boiler Room. It's like you sit around the conference table. One thing I will say that, and I love Adam Liebman for this so much, is the first thing that he did wasn't selling, wasn't trying to pump us up or anything. We watched a TED Talk, which we should post in the comments, called The Happiness Advantage. Mm-hmm. And there's a book, and the gentleman, have you heard of it? So it's this guy, Sean Aker, and the happiness advantage basically puts a bunch of psychological studies together and says that if you're in a really good mood, a good headspace, you're feeling really good, you will perform better. Your recall is better, your communication is better, your heart rate is lower, and people can feel that even through a screen or even through the phone. So the happiness advantage is don't over prepare. The best thing you can do before like a big pitch, if you're super nervous, is literally just get up, put on some music, dance around, watch a funny video. I like to look at pictures of my daughter and my husband. So if I'm like really nervous before a sales pitch, I'll like watch a video of my daughter like farting on my husband, and then I'm like, oh my god, like this is so funny. And then you just perform better. You're just better. So I feel like that was like so fucking critical because sales is so hard. And it can be really demoralizing. And then even when you close a deal, you got to flip them over to onboarding, and then there's fucking stuff that didn't come up, and it's just like there's always something. You need to have a positive mental attitude if you're going to be successful, and I'm so grateful to Adam for that. So he taught us a ton of stuff, but I think what he really taught us is like you're allowed to have fun. We're here all day together. Like, let's make it fun. Let's cheer for each other. It was a very, like, it was cutthroat because you didn't want to get fired, but you never wanted anybody else on the team not to do well. Everybody wanted everybody to do well. We had our personal goals and we had our team goals. And that was always very, very important.
That sounds like a great environment. So you said he showed you that video. How long did it take before they kind of just threw you on the phones?
Oh, we were on the phone that day.
First day. Okay. I
Yeah.
love it. And
Yeah.
and did they give you some kind of script to say? Like what was like the pre-call prep before your first call?
So I think the other thing too is like there's a difference between a more well-established company where they're like, we have our playbook, come in, execute. You know, they always say make it your own, you know, whatever, have fun, but it's like we know what works, do this. I consider myself more of like a startup person. So I like to be the person that's helping to write the script. So like, let's just figure it out, and whatever works. It was me, this guy Max, Emily. They're like the OGs, Abby. Everyone's gone on to be very successful, and it was a great incubator. But I think a lot of what we did became the playbook for the kids that were getting hired 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. That still work there. And like I've done that at other companies before, but at the end of the day, it's like don't overcomplicate it. It's like we're calling because we're going to put menus on the internet. We want to make sure that your restaurant doesn't suck, basically. So I'm going to ask you some questions about your restaurant. And then if you want to put your menu online, at the end, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or Discover. You know, we were all in the pit together. So you would hear someone say Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or Discover, and everyone would like, you know, or like you have that moment where like someone stands up because they're like negotiating, you know what I mean? And everyone's just like, oh shit, you know? So a lot of it was just like volume, you know, like it was like, hey, you own a restaurant. There's this thing called the internet. People are looking up restaurants on it. You should probably put your menu on it. If you don't want to, that's fine, but I'm going to call the restaurant down the street. And like, they're going to put their menu on the internet.
And they're going to take all your business.
And like, it was like definitely a little bit of a like fear-based sale, but like not in a negative way at all, but it was just kind of like, this is the future. And I think that's a lot of what sales is too, is like we're on this like leading edge where it's like, this is coming, this is happening, and like we started a company to solve this problem for you. There's a really, really good book called Crossing the Chasm that I highly recommend, and it's all about like there's going to be early adopters, people that buy new stuff just because it's new and they love it. And then there's like the newer people that are like, well, as long as they're doing it, I'll give it a try. And then eventually you reach this chasm where people just they're fighting the future. They just they don't want to do it. So I think a lot of it also, what I learned from that job was like reading someone from the first cold call. Like you just get the vibe. You know, like I talked to my manager today about this, where it's like you have opportunities, but then you have deals. So I think what I learned is like I learned when I had a live one, you know, when it's like I got one. This guy's engaged. He's actually listening. I can tell he's not also fucking cutting food right now while he's talking to me. You know, like people are like, I have chicken hands. I gotta go, and you're like, oh my god. So I think I learned a lot there, where it's like just know where to spend your time as well. So if you're making 150 cold calls a day, and you get someone that's like talking to you, but they're not a meeting, they're not a deal, it's like you have a choice to make. Do you sit there and get the talk time? Or do you cut bait because you actually have a fucking job to do and a number to hit? So I think a lot of that too, like it was very results driven because it was a one call close. So you should be closing a deal a day, at least, you know, and like we would have hat-trick days. Literally like $49 a month, maybe. Wow. Like it was not expensive at all. But it was new, you know, it was a new idea for people. So the people that got it, and they signed right then and there. The people that didn't, maybe closed later, but like I wasn't rehashing. Like it was like, if you don't sign up, like I'm on to the next one. So I think that was like a really big thing I learned, is like, don't overcomplicate it. Ask for what you want. If someone's not interested, move on. You know, like but then if someone is interested, like I think you and I talked about this too, like they could have hung up.
Oh yeah.
They didn't. Something's there. So just, don't give up. So spend your time wisely, but then double down on the stuff that like is important.
Yeah, actually one of my calls the other day that I booked, he said he was saying no from the beginning basically, but he stayed on the phone. So I talked to him for like 15 minutes and then I ended up booking the meeting. So you never know. He never gave
So
me
how
a
did you
help.
know that he wasn't just like kicking tires though? Like how did you, like, you clearly knew that it was worth the time?
So, and this one is kind of like, there's got to be a rush on this one. Like, I think we're actually meeting him tomorrow because he was basically like, it's kind of weird because the objection he gave me was like something you would think like, oh, we would like kind of want to see it. But basically, he was like, we're looking at other vendors right now. We're about to put pen to paper on another one. So I'm like, he's kind of telling me no, and I'm trying to, double down the meeting, this and that. We're talking for a little bit, and I was like, hey, could I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. And I was like, what if we're way better than the other person you're about to sign with? And then he kind of went with it more. So yeah, like you said, like if they stay on the phone, don't hang up unless it's just like, an unqualified prospect or, a number of other things. But
I think you don't know how good you are at sales yet. So I'm very excited to be doing this with you so that I can give you your flowers on a regular basis. But like, you very well could have told the guy, we're better. I'm confident that we're better, so let's have a meeting to talk about it. That's a very different play versus like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, what if we're better?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we are. I think that is such a skill in sales to just be asking these questions of like, why not? What if?
Yeah.
Maybe, like, hey, price aside, what if, we were better than the vendor that you're looking at? Or, hey, what would good look like? Just like thoughtful, soft, open-ended questions are so underutilized. And I feel like I didn't learn that until my second sales job. Like my first sales job, it was very much like here's what we're selling. Do you want in? Yes or no? Let's go. Bang, bang, bang the drum. So there wasn't a lot of discovery, right? It was just like a here's what we're doing, here's what you'll get, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or Discover.
I
My
love that.
second job, once I knew like, okay, sales is a thing. I want a bigger deal size. I want a little bit of a longer sales cycle. I want more of it was a horizontal solution. So like there's the vertical and horizontal, right? So vertical is like you only sell into certain types of businesses. I only sell to restaurants. Whereas horizontal is I sell background checks to anybody. Doesn't matter what kind of business they're in. I wanted that. I wanted to learn more about different types of businesses and stuff like that. So I definitely like up leveled myself in the next sales job. But yeah, I think that you have such a natural ability to just be like, we're just trying to figure this out together. Like maybe it's not a good fit. It's like, and you learn that, and like people say it, but sometimes when you hear them say it, you're like, they don't really mean that. They're just mad, It's like, hey, maybe we're not a good fit. There are some people where you can just like tell they're actually trying to be helpful.
I also feel like I've never booked a meeting from attacking what they thought was right. Like even like a lot of people have battle cards for their competitors and stuff like that. I've never booked a meeting by saying like this is what we do better than your competitor, because then you're like a lot of times you're insulting them. They did their research, they looked at all these companies and they chose this one, and now you're like, "Oh, we're better." Like F off. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like what I felt when I first started and tried to do that. So I try to stay away from saying we're better than 10th Street or Keller or whatever other higher right, whatever company it is. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's just that's a great thing to just think about as a salesperson is like, like I've said this before, like your reputation, you are your own brand, and it's like you want to represent yourself well, you want to represent the company well, and companies aren't out there stealing people's money, generally speaking. You know what I mean? So it's like, I also don't want to paint the world with this broad brush that there are companies out there that know they're shitty and are taking people's money. It's like, we're all trying our best. We're all just trying our best. There's enough room for everybody. There's enough business to go around. There's enough money to go around. I think you just, to your point, you genuinely have to just be curious and want what's best for your clients and for for your customers, and like I think that if you come at it in that way, like I've booked a couple cold meetings that way where it's like, let's just talk about who you're working with and how it's going,
yeah.
and like we'll be able to figure out pretty quickly if there's an opportunity, and if not, like that's totally fine. And you have to respect your own time to mean that second part. Like I had a guy recently that came inbound, said, hey, I'm interested, let's have a conversation. We rescheduled a bunch of times. Great guy, super polite, very busy. Shit happens, right? We're supposed to do our demo, no shows the demo. And it's like, okay, like that's just not an opportunity. That's not a deal.
Yeah.
Great guy, great company. I'm sure they'll move forward. They'll sign up eventually, right? But it's just one of those things where as a junior rep, that might be your first call every day where you're like, oh, like I just got to get him back on the calendar. Just got to get him back on the calendar. And it's like, yeah, but no, like he'll come back when he's ready.
Yeah.
You need to go focus on other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So also I feel like we're probably gonna have to do two parts to this.
Oh
But
my God, I know.
walk me
Yeah.
through. So how long did you do that first job for? And then like talk to me about that leap you made to the next job.
Yeah. So I was at the first company for 2 years, and I was there because I told myself, you cannot leave a job until you've been there for 2 years. So it was hard. I had such bad anxiety, David, that I would throw up in the garbage can on the subway platform, waiting for the subway.
Oh my
I
God.
I woke up, I took New Jersey Transit into Manhattan, and then I walked and I got on a subway, and then I transferred to a different subway, and I got all the way it took me at least 2 hours to get to work and at least 2 hours to get home. I did it every single day. And I
Wow.
had IBS, I got ulcers, I was so stressed out because I was so scared to fail.
Wow.
And the more I was successful, the more scared I got that it was like all going to be taken away. It was just like
Yeah.
I was not in a good spot, but I'm so happy I didn't quit, because now I have all these data points of like yes, you can be really nervous and stressed, but you're not going to quit. You're going to stay. You're going to do it. It's going to be okay. Just don't quit. Just don't quit. Just don't quit. So I had to put a date on it because I wanted to quit so bad. And it was a great company, great product, great people. I was just so scared to just not be successful. And then I think I was like, okay, let me really see if I can do this sales thing. Because I think a lot of times when you're really good at what you do, just to stroke my own ego, you also are pretty humble about it. And you think like good people think that good things happen because of luck and bad things are their fault, generally speaking. It's like a pretty well-known psychological phenomenon, right? So I was like, let me just see if I can actually do sales or if this is a fluke. And I'm just good because I'm a waitress and these are restaurant people, is like what I thought.
Yeah.
So I had gotten reached out to on LinkedIn by a recruiter for a company that was hiring salespeople. Another piece of advice, always take the recruiting calls. Even if you're not looking for a job, even if you don't like the company, even if you know the comp isn't good, take the meeting because you never know if this person is going to be able to help you down the road. Maybe the job's actually a perfect fit for a friend of yours that's
Yeah,
looking
that's a
for
good point.
something. You never know, right? So I always take those and I always keep their contact information. And that's actually how I went from job number 2 to job number 3. I reached back
Wow.
out to one of those headhunters and was like, hey, this is what I want for my next sales job. So my first job was, can I cold call? Can I not quit? Yes. Can I ask
Check.
a stranger for money? Yes.
Check.
That's all I learned. And I was like, okay, check. The next job was, can I prospect? Can I figure out who's a good fit? Can I find contact information on the internet? Can I really build a book? Because I wasn't my first job, you got a lead list. Bang out these calls. Boom. The next job, it was you can call anybody.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm selling software that collects customer reviews. I started calling like sex toy companies. I was like, what, like I called anybody. And then once you got one, then that's okay, but now this is a vertical for me. Now I'm going to like double down on this. I
Oh,
learned how to prospect. I signed up Fleshlight. It's one of the
oh man, that's great.
biggest deals I had ever done. It was a good one. It was a good one. The holding company is called Interactive Life Forms. Ew.
That's a
Yeah,
little creepy, but
it's a little weird. Yeah, yeah.
What
But yeah,
company?
I learned a lot there. I worked for an incredible sales leader. I met 2 guys that I work with now again at another company 10 years later. Yeah, it was definitely a little bit more of a mature role. But had I not taken that, LinkedIn message and been like, let me just see, and I got the job pretty quickly. I think it was like 2 or 3 interviews. Pretty small startup. It was a European company, which was cool. So like I got to go to Denmark and like,
That's sick.
like do like, yeah, like people were like, one of my girlfriends went and moved to the Australia office. Right. So
That's
it was like, it just
awesome.
opened up a lot of doors. And I worked there for 4 years. I was very, very happy there. And had I not moved, I think I would have stayed longer. Like I loved that job. It was a really, really, really good job. But then again, I was like, I think I'm outgrowing this a little bit. And then I wanted to do like true enterprise. I was like, I want to be doing $1 million deals. Like it's cool selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of software. It's way cooler selling millions of dollars of software.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I reached back out to one of the recruiters and I literally, when I tell you, David, I placed an order for my job. I said, this is the kind of company that I want. I would love for it to be a European company so I can still do all these cool travels and trips and stuff. I was like, this is the deal size I want. This is the size of the company that I want, like all these things. And he came back a couple weeks later and was like, how about this one? And I was like, this looks perfect. Interviewed, got the job.
Wow. So, okay, so you went from full cycle, one call closed to maybe full cycle. Was it more mid-market-ish type
Yeah.
deals? Okay. And now this is enterprise. Is it still full cycle or like how did it work there?
Yeah, still full cycle. They at one point got like 1 or 2 BDRs to try to drum up meetings, but it was the deals were so large, and this is kind of what I was saying is like, is this a funded project? right? So there's a sweet spot in mid-market where you can catch someone cold. They weren't thinking about this. They agree that there's a problem. They agree that they're ready to solve the problem, and you can close the deal. And you can do that up to like, maybe 7,500K, like 100% possible. Once the deals are way bigger and the companies are way bigger, normally they'll have what's referred to as a procurement process. So you have to go through these hoops to get legal sign off and budget approval and information security, and it just becomes a bigger web of a deal. So in that case, a lot of times they come inbound and they'll send you what's called an RFP, a request for proposal. So they'll say, hey, we've decided as a company, so like Disney, we have decided that we need a better place to store all of our photos. We need a better digital asset management solution. So we're going to put out an APB to all the best digital asset management companies. We're going to send them our proposal. They are going to fill out our paperwork. They're not going to do their own fancy pitch decks. You're going to conform. Apples to apples is what they want. And then a lot of times you'll get selected down. So maybe they get 8 submissions. They'll pick 4. 4 come in to do a pitch. And then maybe they'll do the final 2, and you have to do like a proof of concept, right? So there's like a lot of steps. That's really, really what I wanted to learn. But in terms of where they were coming in, it was like a lot of ebbs and flows. Like sometimes I would get 3 RFPs in a month, and I would be so busy, like freaking out. And then I would have a month where I have 0. And it's like I'm not traveling and I'm trying to do cold outreach, but like, again, there's no lead list. So I'm going to like mailtester.com and like trying to figure out people's emails. And like, I got some cold meetings, so we got there eventually. But yeah, enterprise, I think, is a lot more inbound driven. And it's like a lot more synergy with marketing.
It kind of has to be, right? For all those things
Yeah.
to fall in place. Wow. So when did you start to kind of think, okay, maybe I don't want to be an IC anymore? Was it your next job that you were in an IC, or like walk me through kind of that thought process?
So I skipped over this at job number 2, but in my 20s, I don't want to speak for everybody in the whole entire world, but I feel like you think you got to get promoted. Like, what do I have to do to get promoted? Like, the idea of doing the same job forever just didn't seem attractive or realistic. It felt like a pansy move or whatever, when I was just like, no, you got to get promoted. Like, do more. People were getting picked to be sales managers. I want to be picked to be a sales manager. And so I got promoted. And the vice president that I worked for, such a thoughtful guy, and how he did this without me actually committing suicide, I don't know. But he demoted me back down. He was like, hey,
Wow.
Maddie, like, I remember the exact words. He's like, I'm going to put you back on Nate's team. And like, it was this weird, like, relief, and then so embarrassed and ashamed of myself, because I like to be liked. I'm
Yeah.
not really a hard ass. And my team just like wasn't fully respecting me. They weren't, and I went from being their colleague and their friend to their boss
That's a
from
weird
over a
dynamic.
weekend.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And then the other hard part is that it's like, I just wanted to get back on the phone and like close all their deals for them. So like sitting there
Itch.
and hearing someone, and then like you're messaging them like, say this, like say this.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like, it was really, really hard. And I never would have quit. So thank God, JP, amazing, was like, we're going to put you back on Nate's team. So I was like a player coach, in that realm. The next job, full enterprise sales, no leadership. I just was an IC. And then it wasn't until the job after that, which was like a very much a twisty, turny, weird loop to get me out of and back into sales. I didn't really have aspirations for leadership. I think what the advice that I would give my former self is you don't have to get promoted into sales management to progress.
Hmm.
Like, you can just do bigger deals and make more money
Yeah.
and learn more, and and maybe there's a ceiling because of just like the quota and like how you can hit, like maybe you get capped out, but like most of the time it's uncapped commission wherever you go. So I think, yeah, just don't feel like you have to go into management to prove that you're really good at what you're doing.
Mm.
I feel like that's kind of where I got stuck, where I was like, well, if other people are getting picked to be a manager and I'm not, there it must be because I'm not as good as they are. Instead of saying like, no, I'm so good at this and
That
I
they're
love it
proving
so
you
much
wrong.
that why would
Yeah.
I want to do anything else? You know what I mean? And I'm back as an IC now.
Yeah.
Like now, and
The
what stuff
closer.
we're talking about, it's like, yeah, it's 12 years ago now. I love being an IC. I love being like a, kind of like a team lead vibe, like player coach a little bit. Like I love helping people, but like, yeah, I think I'm happy doing my own thing for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future.
And there's a difference between helping a teammate and being responsible for their quota. Because you
Hmm.
give them some helpful advice and they crush it, be like, oh, like, thank you so much. But then if they don't take the advice, it doesn't matter if you're not their manager. But if you are their manager, then you're like, no, I'm not going to hit my quota either.
Yeah,
Um,
big time.
but so, which job you were in customer success at one point, right?
So this is like I feel again old. So first job, did it for 2 years, cold calling, getting hung up on, boiler room. Second job, learning prospecting, discovery, Salesforce hygiene, reporting, dashboards, like
Your
running a
favorite stuff.
playbook, running a sales process. Then huge enterprise. I lived at the airport. I was flying all over the place doing these like wild pitches. My husband got a job in LA at a phenomenal company. And so I moved there. So I was like, I need this remote job. So I had my remote enterprise sales job. Yeah, I thought that was what I wanted to do. I was so lonely. I was by myself in the airport all the time. And it was like,
Mm.
you know how it is, where you're like, this is what you wanted. You should be so happy and grateful. So I was like trying to do it. And my fucking husband is at the office until 9:30 at night having so much fun building. It's like startup. He was an implementation manager, and it was just such a cool company. I feel like something I'm also really grateful for that I've gotten good at is like knowing, is this like a legit company? Like, is it like right place, right time? Is
Yeah.
it really good market fit? What's the competitive landscape? And my spidey sense was tingling about this company. And I was like, I want to work there. So I actually went in hoping to get an enterprise sales job, obviously. Like, I'm an enterprise seller. They were not hiring. They were hiring for enterprise customer success managers. So in my mind, I'm like, great, it's just more chill sales,
Yeah.
right? Like I have a
Less
book of
stress.
business, I have to retain it, probably sell them some other stuff. Um, it was so technical.
Really.
Like when I tell you I had never opened Microsoft Excel in my life before that job, ever, ever. I didn't know anything about actual software. I could sell, but I didn't know anything about architecture and databases and workflow automation. And like, I didn't know any of that stuff. So it was a blessing, but it was also one of those situations where I just got swept up in the opportunity. So it was like I was a CSM, I was doing really well. We had this other product. They were like, "Oh, we need an implementation team." And I was like, "I'll do it. I'll do it." That was just like my mantra for 5 years at this company was like, "I'll do it. I'll do
Oh
it."
my God.
Um, so yeah, I was in success. I started an implementation team. Then I started the like churn mitigation, retention arm. And then I just had this moment one day where I was like, I need to get back on the phone because I'd been promoted so much that I didn't talk to customers anymore.
Wow.
So I was like a director level. So I was
Yeah.
managing managers who had people, right? And again, this is what you wanted. You should be so happy. And then it's like, I just was like, I miss talking to actual business owners. So thankfully, I was able to find a sales management job within the same company, and did that. And then, I mean, at the risk of fast forwarding and being callous, I loved that job. I loved being a sales manager. I loved my boss. Still to this day, he had the team buy the stroller for my daughter when she was born.
Wow.
Like, just
That's
like
awesome.
such a nice guy and so good at his job, so well organized. And after I had my daughter, Ava, I got such bad postpartum depression that I couldn't go back to work.
That's tough. Yeah.
My entire career just stopped. And I took a full year off, and it was so devastating. And I fully wanted to be that working mom where I was like, I'll see you guys after maternity leave, baby. I'll be back closing deals. Let's go. And I got fucking rocked. It was so difficult. But at the same time, because this is how life works, then I had that moment to be like, all right, what do I actually want to do? Like if I'm going to go back to work, do I want to start my own business? Do I want to go sell at a well-established company? I ended up joining a tiny startup with like 10 people, the same people that for my first sales job. Same cast of characters, and like that was awesome. But I was like, I just want to be an enterprise seller. That's what I want. I was like, I've done a lot, and like it took me until I was 37 years old to have the confidence to be like, this is what I want to do, and I am therefore going to do it. And I feel really lucky that I had a friend that I worked at my second job who is now at this company, and he was like, come sell with me. So I think another huge lesson is like just loose ties, they call them. Like, if you're the type of person like you are, I see you messaging people on LinkedIn. If you can message someone that you haven't talked to in 3 years and they remember you and they answer, get in sales. Because it's rare for you to just have such a good reputation and be memorable, that people are just like, oh my God, yeah, like I was thinking about you the other day. Like if you ever have anyone that's like, I just thought of you the other day and I wanted to reach out, like get
I'm
in
totally
sales.
that person too, like even on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get nervous too, like, because a lot of what I've been talking about is networking. Like, I didn't realize how much my career was just built on people thinking about me and me asking people for help and reaching back out to people that I know. And I hear a lot, especially from my girlfriends, like, oh, well, it's just been so long and it would be weird if I reached out now.
Yeah.
No, just do it. Just do it. Just say, hey, I was thinking about you. That's it.
Yeah.
I think anything you can do to like stoke the fire of your network, and like people want to be helpful, so it's like post online. Like, I want to get into sales. Does anybody have any time just to talk to me about it?
Yeah.
You will get a job.
Plus, those salespeople want referrals.
People like to be helpful. So yeah, I feel really, having gone through this, like I just feel really lucky that I've been so well supported by my friends, my family. My mom, who will watch this, did not want me to go through what I was going through in that first job. She was like, Madeline, you need to quit that job. I didn't have a chair. I sat on a cardboard box.
Are you serious? Wow. That's the real deal.
It was, it got real, but like
Yeah.
it wasn't real at the beginning. We were trying. They were like, let's hire these 6 kids and see if this is real. And then that company ended up
nuts.
getting acquired for $100 million. Like I got to be, like I went through an acquisition. I've been through an IPO.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it's just, just showing up every day, and like, then like your career happens around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me ask you, what is it about, like obviously you've done everything. What is it about enterprise like sales specifically that wants you, like makes you want to stay there? Is it the rush of closing such a big deal? Do you like dealing with that complexity? Are you sick of the volume of, the smaller deals? Like what do you like so much about it?
I do think that I again, I'm selling. I like the more measured approach, which really means I don't want to make 100 cold calls a day anymore.
I don't
Um,
blame you.
you know what I
As
mean?
someone who's doing that
Um,
now, I don't blame
I feel
you.
like you have to. It's sales boot camp.
It is.
You cannot skip it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Do it for 2 years and shut up and just fucking call. But as you continue to grow, what I really like is this concept. They called it multi-threading, and my manager that I have now is the best I have ever seen at this.
Really.
It's understanding the org map. So you get an inbound from one person. Who's their boss? Who works for them? What department are they in? Who needs to sign off on this? Is legal and information security, do they get along? Or like the digital asset management big deals that I was doing a couple of jobs ago, it was always like marketing versus IT. Marketing wanted sexy, new, open API, blah, blah, blah. And information security team was like, this needs to be hosted on Azure, not AWS. And you're just like, fuck. Like, so I like the cross pressure and like the tension, and like I almost feel more like a mediator than a salesperson at this level. Like, you don't want to get too into the project management aspect where it's like I'm not good at it. So maybe you do want to get into it. I'm not good at it. So I'm not good at like mutual action plans and signing off on different steps and statuses. Like, what I'm really good at is like, it feels like this guy's in charge, but he hasn't been there very long. So he has never gone through the procurement process at this company. So I need him, but I also need to find somebody that has been through it before and bring them in. Maybe it's just to pick their brain. Maybe it's, hey, can you help him? Do they get along? Will they help each other? So a lot of it is like political, honestly. And I really like that. I really like it being a little bit messy, and then me being able to like zoom out and simplify it and turn it into action items. So it's just like, all right, we have a project. They're going to probably pick a vendor. Maybe they stay with what they're doing today. Their fiscal year ends here. So we have this budget for this year and this budget for next year. Can we take the implementation and like amortize it over the course of a couple months? Like, there's just always like a bunch of moving parts. But then at the end of the day, you distill it down and you're like, we need to get budget approval, we need information security and legal approval, we need verbal agreement, and we need to know when we're going to go live so we can like reverse engineer our timeline. Like, it's, again, you get it down to the playbook, you get it down to the rails of what you ultimately need. But I like taking a lot. You like have to cause problems for yourself and then solve them. Like, no deal gets done without digging up the dirt. So I like that in a complex enterprise sale, you can say, this feels too easy, so it's not real. Like, where's the shit? Like this, it's, and people get freaked out. I think I talk to a lot of reps that like, they feel like they're right on the finish line, and then legal red lines come back, or somebody else has a budget issue, or they misread something, or, there's always these like final hurdles. That's when it's real. That's when it's a real deal. When you're like getting all of these last minute, like, but wait, fuck, this person's, I didn't know they were on PTO. Like, you know what I mean? But it's again, healthy balance. Like, time kills deals. I learned that from JP. Time kills deals. But if you understand the timeline and you know that you're still on schedule, it doesn't matter if it takes 3 months or 3 days or 3 hours to close the deal. You just have to kind of like know where you're at. So that was a super, super fucking long answer, but I like that it's complex, and I like being able to like simplify it.
So when you have like, say, that first point of contact, obviously it could be so many people based on what you said. Because like, I'm thinking about like when I'm cold calling and just like on a kind of a big scale, like I get way more no's than yeses. I think obviously everyone does. So when you talk to that person in another department and now you have to go talk to someone in another department, how do you kind of get them on the same page? Are you kind of almost worried about getting that no when you kind of have this person here, or are you getting them to talk, like champion it and talk to them? Like, how do you kind of go about that?
So I think it's like it's hard to be prescriptive when it's that human. So I think like the goal for me always is just to understand the reality of like their org. And the way that I do that is I imagine the questions my sales manager is going to ask me after the call. So if I'm talking to one person and he's like, say that you sell a software that helps with 3 different things, 3 value propositions that you have, and you're talking to somebody who can benefit from these 2, but this one lives somewhere else. You got to just ask the question, would it make sense for us to loop that person in? That's my favorite way of asking a question. Would it make sense for me to send the agreement? Would it make sense for us to loop that person in? Because it's non-confrontational, and it empowers the person that you're talking to make them feel like this is, real. So I think if I were to put it into kind of like an order of operations, it's first just understand who the characters are and start to get a feel as to like how they interact with each other. And this is where you get to be a little bit creepy. And I want to get better at this. I want to just let myself, sit in front of the computer and just like look on LinkedIn and just kind of like, oh, this person was here. Oh, they worked here. Oh, I closed a deal with this company. I wonder if this person worked with that company back in the day.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta kind of just like figure it all out. Like no big deals are getting done with talking to one person. And the other thing that I am learning and getting better at is the value prop and how you sell to the different people matters a lot. So I think for you as a BDR, it's like, hey, this person that I'm talking to has this exact problem that we can solve. So this is worth the first conversation. And then just ask at the end, would it make sense for us to bring anybody else in?
Yeah.
Because they'll probably say no, but if 1 out of 100 times they're like, yeah, I think actually Steve should be in this, that AE is going to love you.
Oh yeah.
Love you, right? So I think it's, would it make sense for us to bring anybody else in? And then my other favorite question is, cool, so when you typically make decisions like this, what does that decision-making process look like for you guys? Because like everyone will tell you, we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna take it upstairs. We're gonna present it. We'll get back to you. The fuck does that mean? Like I want to imagine myself in the room. I want to know that my champion is gonna take this doc and they're gonna print it and they're gonna walk it down the hallway and they meet with their boss every Tuesday. And it might be on the agenda for this Tuesday, but if not, they're going to try to catch him on Wednesday. So when I call you Thursday, you will have had this conversation with him. Is there any way that I can be in the room when you have that conversation? Right? So I think it's just truly understanding, have they done this before? That's if I talk to someone and I have an open opportunity and they tell me, we just did an evaluation like this recently. So like right now for what I'm selling, I sell software that helps with drivers. They also have software that helps with trucks. So if my person is like, I'm the one that signed the contract for the trucks, I know you can be the person that can sign it for the drivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's, understanding who all needs to be involved. Have you all done this together before? Or is this new? Because if you've never done this before, then I need to slow down and help you understand how you're going to sell this internally and like what that process looks like. And I think a lot of it, again, is just like bravery and just like proactively asking the questions are going to need to get answered eventually versus hoping that it just won't come up. It's like, I don't know, if this guy really likes it. It's like, if it were only up to you, would you move forward today? Yes. Great. What else do we need to accomplish to make that a reality? So you're sold. Now, how do we get everybody else on board?
Wow. Now, I just want to ask you another maybe two-part question. I know there's a hard stop today because it's your husband's birthday.
My husband's
Shout
birthday.
out to
Happy
your husband.
birthday,
Happy
Andrew.
birthday.
I love you.
But yeah, I wanted to ask, what's harder to get promoted from like kind of the SMB AE to mid-market or mid-market to enterprise or even enterprise to management or leadership? And what advice would you give to people who are trying to get promoted in those areas?
It's a very
That's a
thoughtful
big one,
question.
but
That's a really, really, really good question. I think that from what I've seen historically at various companies with lots of different people, I think that it's not too difficult to be promoted from individual contributor to manager if you can very clearly articulate why you want to be a manager, and what that's getting you to, right? So if you want to be a CEO one day, you have to manage people. So So if it's like, hey, I know this is my first step, or what I would love when my reps would come to me and ask about promotion, I just want to see if management is right for me. That's also great. I think that the worst thing that you can do is get disappointed if you don't get it the first time you go after it. Like I sang all through high school and college, and when I got into college, I tried out for the a cappella group, and I didn't get it my freshman year, and I was so butthurt that I didn't audition again, and it's one of the biggest regrets that I have. Like I don't have many regrets in my life, but I very much regret not just trying again. So I think that's something that's important. I would also say that it can be very difficult to get promoted into enterprise if you don't know your numbers. So like really all enterprises is just a couple more zeros on the end of whatever you're selling. But because the numbers are so large and you're doing so few deals, you really need to understand the funnel. So like if you are interviewing for an enterprise sales job and you don't know to the dollar how much pipeline you need to generate, what's your close rate, what's your average deal size, your quota for the year, you should be able to reverse engineer all of that math down to how many phone calls you need to make to generate enough meetings, to generate enough pipeline to hit your quota. So I think that being good on the phone gets you to like top mid-market AE. A lot of the art of the sale. If you want to level up from there, you need to get more into the science, the org mapping, the what does it mean to be owned by private equity, just like a lot of the more like nerdy stuff is what you need to go up market, in my opinion.
Wow. No, that was a great answer. And I guess since we do have that hard stop, it's time to close it out. That was a very good. That was a great, sales journey. I'm sure everyone will enjoy it and is looking forward to learning more as we go on with the podcast. And
It's
I
a fun
appreciate.
trip down memory lane. Now I need to text Adam Liebman. I need to text JP Barnick. I need to text a bunch of people and be like, I was thinking about you. I love you. Let me know if you're hiring. I always have good salespeople in mind. And I mean, yeah, like and subscribe. We love talking about sales. Like, if anybody wants to get into sales, like, comment. Like, David and I are very gracious with our time,
Oh
and
yeah.
we want to be helpful. Look for sales jobs online. Like, if there's a software that you love and you're really good at it, go to their website, see if they're hiring salespeople. Like I got into sales because I was a waitress and I sold to restaurant owners. My husband, when we first met, was a plumber. He started getting really good at the software that they used at his plumbing shop, and he is now a vice president at this freaking software company,
Wow.
10 years later. So software, if you are out there and you're the end user of a software, if you're like, I'm in HubSpot every day, I'm in whatever, Salesforce, whatever, you could sell that software because you're the customer.
Yeah.
You could be in implementation, you could be in customer success. So I think like my father-in-law always gives great advice about stocks. He's like, just look what's under your kitchen cabinet and
Absolutely.
invest in those companies. So I feel like it's the same thing. Just think about what you do every day and what you love every day. And if you're like, wow, if I could just talk about this all day, every day, you can talk about website design all day. You can sell that. So, yeah, anybody that ever wants to get into sales, you know where to find us.
If
We will
Maddie
help.
just closed you, press like and subscribe.
Well, I'm going to take my husband out to dinner. And then I'm going to Hawaii next week because
Have
sales
fun.
and software has been good to us. So
Let's
I will see
go.
you guys next week from Hawaii.
Let's go. Goals. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you, Maddie, for telling us all that, and have a good night.
Set them up, knock them down, guys.